I'm constantly looking to what we can do on farm and as an industry, because not only biosecurity practices on farm are obviously very important, but biosecurity doesn't stop at the farm. We need to think about disease prevention and animal health in transport, when visiting high traffic facilities, how these integrated service providers and essential service providers work with us on farm and then again throughout the value chain.
Welcome to the Swine Health Canada podcast show, brought to you by Wisenetics. We are dedicated to bringing you the latest insights and discussions in the Canadian pork industry. So I'm Miranda Smith, and I'll be the host for today's episode. And with me today, I have Jenelle Hamblin, who is the Director of Swine Health for Manitoba Pork. So welcome to the show, Jenelle.
Thank you for having me, Miranda.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about disease preparedness planning. But before we get into that, can you first give us a little bit of background information on how you got into your current position?
Sure. Yeah, it's a bit of a winding road and one that I'm very excited and proud of. I graduated from the University of Manitoba with a Bachelor of Science in Microbiology and a Master of Science in Animal Science. And I always knew that I enjoyed working with livestock, in large animals. And I always had an interest in the health side, but wasn't really too keen on doing that school. It was more of the policy programming side of things that drew me in. So I actually worked with the province of Manitoba for 9 years in a number of different livestock roles. And it really prepared me for learning different things, having different capacities and saying yes when asked if anybody wants to help out on something. And it really did build my skill sets in particularly emergency management and animal health related, animal welfare, animal health related files. So primarily my focus was on beef and forage. And then back in 2017, we had an outbreak, I should say, not a case, of Porcine Epidemic Diarrhea virus, which ended up becoming a full-blown outbreak, over 80 cases of PED in about 6 months' time. And I was called in to help with the response, being that I was working with the province at the time and had experience in emergency management. So I was brought in to assist, and from there, I was offered a position with Manitoba Pork and have been here ever since 2017. So in this role, it's been a fantastic experience of learning the swine industry. I was very, very upfront with Pork Council when I started. Like, I've got skill sets that really fit this, but the production side of it is where I'm lacking. And there has been no shortage of people in this industry that have been willing to share their expertise and their knowledge with me in swine production. And I'm so grateful for that, to have this group of people in Manitoba and Canada that have built my knowledge in that space and how I can apply the disease, the animal health, the emergency management components of what I brought to the role further into this industry. So that's just a short little synopsis of how I got here.
Okay, excellent. And I mean, I definitely agree that we have a pretty nice community where people are willing to share information with each other. So that's really great to hear. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's dive into disease preparedness planning. So can you first talk a little bit about what does this entail?
Absolutely. No, it's a really big part of my day-to-day job, whether it be from the endemic or production disease level, or I guess a subsidiary, or would be foreign animal disease preparedness. And I think both of those, they have similarities. They have areas that overlap when you're talking about preparedness, particularly in biosecurity. But when you're talking about scale of impact on the industry, obviously a market interruption, a disease that would cause a market interruption in Canada the scale of something like that is exponentially greater than a production disease. But the overall principles, I would say, you can apply to both production and foreign animal disease. And for me, in my role as director of swine health, I'm constantly looking to what we can do on farm and as an industry, because not only biosecurity practices on farm are obviously very important, but biosecurity doesn't stop at the farm. We need to think about disease prevention and animal health in transport, when visiting high traffic facilities, how these integrated service providers and essential service providers work with us on farm and then again throughout the value chain. This piece we've seen in our production disease response planning and response, particularly again with PED, Porcine Epidemic Diarrhea virus. And we've taken a lot of that experience and those learnings and applied them to the work that we're doing on foreign animal disease preparedness. Now, there is some crossover, but of course it's not complete. There are instances, and say if there is ever a confirmation of ASF in the country, what that will look like. So big part of my job is developing plans, implementing plans. We've recently developed and implemented our PED elimination plan, which is a 5-year plan to work through eliminating PED in the province. We're currently about halfway through of that, and we've had very good success. And all the while also responding to or planning for other production diseases that we have so influenza, PRRS, those types of things, like what that could look like. But a big piece of my job has absolutely been on the development of preparedness plans for something like African swine fever.
Right. So I imagine, like you mentioned, like there's a lot of people involved in the industry, and so it's not just the farmers; it's all the service providers and the everything. So like, what would you say are some of these significant challenges to developing these and implementing these kinds of disease preparedness plans?
I think the biggest challenge that we've seen, it's probably threefold, particularly for production diseases. What we've learned is the impact on human resources, cleaning and disinfection resources, lab resources. Everything is operating at max capacity. Like our wash facilities for our transport trailers, everything is being washed. I mean, it's operating at a high level capacity now, but it's over and above when you're dealing with a disease outbreak. So, and human resources on farm, your biosecurity is heightened to a disease threat level or a biocontainment level if you're an infected farm. So all of that, I would say the cumulative impact of all of that extra is difficult to manage, and the human resources of the veterinarians and the time that they're spending between managing potentially multiple farms that are working through disease elimination, ourselves and the provincial government who are responding overall to disease outbreak, the time, the effort, the extra that it takes can be a lot and can lead to fatigue or burnout. And we've seen the impact that has had on the mental health of our responders and what those impacts can be, while we're all working to ensure that animal welfare is maintained, because that's really the ultimate goal. In terms of foreign animal disease preparedness, we've seen a number of challenges in preparedness planning because we haven't dealt with it, thank goodness, in the scale and the what if scenarios that come with trying to work through what potentially this could look like. If the case happens to be in Manitoba versus if it's somewhere else in the country, what does that mean for our production system here and what the response would look like? And working through all those different scenarios is it's tough, because you want to plan for a worst case scenario, which is devastating, and you're hoping for best case scenario, which is still really, really bad, and everything in between. so you can really get caught up in those, well, if it's this or if it's that. And also trying to understand what we don't know. There are things that we don't know of when or if this ever happens, what it's going to look like, and how many animals are going to be on the road, and how many animals are going to be backlogged, and what it's a case of, like I say, the what ifs and the unknowns on a scale that great. It really does lead to questions that I don't know if we can fully answer to prepare. So that keeps me up at night sometimes.
But I imagine like a part of those questions you do get to answer eventually with like information coming in from other countries that are going through similar scenarios. Like, do you look at that?
We do. We certainly do. I think for us here in Manitoba, particularly, we are so export dependent in that we move like 90 to 95% of our product that we produce here in Manitoba is exported. So I don't know of another region that has that same level of reliance on outside markets, which, don't get me wrong, we're very proud of the product that we produce and being able to feed the world. It's something that we take great pride in, and it makes my heart feel good to know that our product is being enjoyed around the world. But it does have a bit of a vulnerability as well.
Okay. So like, what would you say are some of the mechanisms or strategies that have led to progress in disease preparedness planning?
That's a great question. And I think really what it comes down to is the attitude and the willingness of people to come to the table and truly collaborate, to share information and provide us with insights to try to your point, to get to the bottom of some of these what if scenarios, because there are many. There is a lot of them. So we've had a fantastic working relationship with our provincial agriculture department for years, and we value that relationship very strongly. And we've developed our plans as a fully joint response to any disease incursion that we face. Foreign animal disease would be no different. So having that joint relationship, that collaborative group of people that choose to come to the table and respond collectively is really huge. So much so that I've coined how we've done this work in the past as the Manitoba Collaborative Disease Response Model. And I would very much welcome anyone who has questions on what we've built and how we've done that to reach out to myself or folks from Manitoba Agriculture specifically, to understand kind of the ins and outs of that in terms of, like I say, people deciding willingly to come to the table to share information, understand each other's mandates and what we're each trying to achieve here, and respecting that, and then working within that to all move towards a bit of a common goal. And really we've seen the impact of this. We've seen how industry, service providers, producers, veterinarians, processors, government, us at Manitoba Pork have literally sat around a table to create, and this is what we saw with the PD elimination plan, create something that was of the benefit of the entire industry. This has also been applied in our foreign animal disease preparedness plans of having those one-on-one conversations with transport companies, assembly yards, processors, other provincial pork organizations, because Canadian swine industry is interconnected. The Canadian Pork Council, the CFIA, having those discussions and being willing to share information and help answer what we can has really led to the development of tangible plans that we can put in place. And we have called that our Manitoba Integrated Emergency Response Plan. I always use the acronym, so saying it out loud is important to remember what that IERP stands for. But no, it's been the mechanism of, like I say, that collaborative information sharing, willingness to participate, has really allowed us to move the needle and create something, like I say, that we can implement. We have implemented with our PED plans, but we can implement should we see something like ASF ever.
And let's hope that it won't, but it's really good to be prepared, because like the chances that it eventually will come here, I mean, it's right.
You never know.
You
got to be ready. You got to be ready.
Got to be ready. So can we talk a little bit about then what the different roles would be for like, like what do producers need to do? What does government do? What does like Manitoba Pork do versus like some of the other people that you just mentioned?
For sure. No, and of course, everybody comes to the table, but everybody has a job, right? Like the producers, of course, they're integral in all of this, because the farm level biosecurity is just so important. And we here in Manitoba, we have a fantastic relationship with our producers, our veterinarians, and they've been really great at moving the industry forward and trying things and implementing things that improve the industry overall. Not only related to biosecurity, but in this case, I will talk about biosecurity specifically, because of the benefit that it has not only to their farm, but like I say, to the industry as a whole. PED taught us the importance of regional biosecurity and the need for regional disease response because of how that disease moves. And we've seen the movement of the industry to a heightened biosecurity standard as a result of PED. We've reaped the benefits of that. And I touch wood every time I say this, because we have not had high levels of PED in our province since 21-22. And what we've drafted and developed for our PED elimination plan really seems to be working. So that's a feather in our cap, and I'm getting better at talking about that in a way that's not boastful, but this is a reality. This is what we're seeing on the ground. So of course, the farm level, the producers, they are doing the work day in, day out, and they're also providing us feedback of what's working and what's not, which is critically important for us to then, as Manitoba Pork, catalog that and share that information with other producers and folks in the industry to say, this is what we're seeing. This could work. This couldn't work. And of course, it's very individual by farm site or production flow. But having that information feed in is very valuable. On the veterinarian side, of course, they're there. That's the conduit to up-to-date health and welfare information, and giving them that overarching viewpoint of, here are some methodologies that you can implement. Transport and assembly yards and allied industry partners, they've really come to the table as well and worked with the industry and Manitoba Pork, the Office of the Chief Veterinarian, Manitoba Agriculture. How can we improve? What do you need from us to respond to PED? What will you need from us in the event of ASF? Even having information from them on their regular day-to-day operations helps to inform us what we're going to be dealing with should we ever get that phone call or email that, okay, we need to pull the red binder off the off the bookshelf and respond. They've been very open and willing to be a part of the planning process. That goes for our processors as well. So the roles that each of these entities will play is critical. We're all going to be in the same boat, and we're all going to need to be working together should we ever see, in this case, an ASF or another foreign animal disease incursion. And the level of commitment that we've seen in the planning process, I think it really it speaks volumes to the willingness and that level of engagement that we would see in the event of if we ever had to deal with this. And that makes me feel a little bit better when I start thinking about all of the what ifs and that keep you up at night. And you're like, we've got some really great people. We've got some really, we've got some good plans. We need to remember that if we ever are faced with that scenario.
Now, like you mentioned, you don't want to boast about PED, but maybe this is the time to boast a little bit. So can you just talk a little bit about like what were maybe like the biggest learnings from your PED outbreak and because it sounds like it's mostly under control. So,
we're in a really great place, and I'm extremely proud of the effort that the industry as a whole has put forward in this plan. Like from start to finish, it has been industry led. People came around the table and said, we need to do something about this. And they put their money where their mouth was, and they've implemented it in the field. And the results are very low numbers of PED cases, both in 2024 and 2025. We had one case in 2024 and two cases so far. I know we're only in August in 2025. But the level of commitment has been and remains strong. The people that are going and working in the barns day in, day out, the people that are coming and putting the preparedness plans together, that piece has just, like I say, the commitment is there. Our biggest learnings, I would say, Miranda, really truly are the importance of biosecurity. Like, biosecurity works. This is a testament to day in, day out biosecurity practices that are sustainable and effective. So if you have practices that you can implement without a whole bunch of bells and whistles, something that will, like I say, I don't want to say it's easy to do, because biosecurity is not easy. It's not.
No, it's not.
But something that is feasible. Putting together a protocol that, is outrageous, like, that's going to be bound to fail. The other piece I think that has really led to our success, is the working through the protocol as to the why. This is why we're doing this. This is how we want you to do it. Step-by-step training by either the veterinarian or the farm manager who developed the protocol, probably in concurrence, to give the staff that empowerment of, this is why you're doing this. And if you see something that's maybe not what's supposed to be being done, giving them that freedom to speak up and say, you're not going to be in trouble. You're not, like, their human nature is, there's things that can happen, not intentionally, but we need to say something, because the impacts could be devastating, particularly with PED. I think the other piece that we've seen that has had success as well is a large part of our Manitoba industry has implemented an on-farm biosecurity software. So it helps to catch some of these potential breaches, again, completely unintentional, before they happen. Like, if somebody calls in sick and it's a new person and they don't know what the flow of something is supposed to be, these things happen. Or a truck is supposed to be here, but it goes over there. Well, this software can catch that before the breaches can happen. So I think that piece has helped as well, and that's a huge tool that, like I say, our industry has taken advantage of. Lastly, I think one of the biggest lessons learned for PED is the risk of previously contaminated manure. That's still one of those unknowns that I think that most of our producers would like an answer to. And we've been working on that, since 2018, 2019. And we keep seeing potentially that what we thought we knew is maybe not quite what we thought we knew. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is that previously infected manure with PED can be a risk for a long time. And proper biosecurity and management practices when you're dealing with that infected manure storage or previously infected manure storage your biosecurity needs to be tight. So again, we have a fantastic allied industry partners in our manure applicators who work with us, and they communicate out, and that part has just tied everything together. And we're not working, siloed. It's very much trying as best we can to share openly and learn from each other. So those have been some pretty big takeaways from my perspective.
Okay, excellent. And like I can only congratulate you and the whole team on the efforts, because it's working. So
thank you.
keep it up.
I'm not the one that's in the barn. This is why I guess I'm not so much keen to be boastful, but I'm not the one in the barns every day doing the hard work. I get to talk about all of the effort and the success that the industry has had, and it does make me very proud. But all of the credit goes to the producers, the barn workers, the veterinarians, the allied industry partners. They're on the ground every day doing this work, and it has paid dividends, I'll tell you that.
It's time for our famous three.
Why Genetics turns podcast airtime into brand authority. We don't sell ads, we elevate voices. Curious how far your voice can go to become a reference in the industry and attract more leads? Scan the QR code and discover how we can turn your expertise into unmatched brand authority. Let's transform expertise into influence, starting now.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. So to our listeners, if you're enjoying this episode of the Swine Health Canada podcast show presented by Wise Genetics, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with colleagues, friends, and family. All right, so then we are going to the final three questions.
Okay.
So the first one is what is your favorite swine-related book or resource?
Oh, I have a number of them. I would say the Canadian Swine Health Intelligence Network, and the Canada West Swine Health Intelligence Network. Again, I use acronyms and I forget the long. Both of those resources, I know both Dr. Krista Arsenault and Dr. Jette Christensen well, and they do fantastic work to inform the current swine health trends that we see in Western Canada, and then of course across Canada. So those two ladies do a great job, and I read those reports religiously when they come out. I also really enjoy the Swine Health Information Center monthly newsletters, that just to keep a pulse on what's happening in the U.S., because particularly for us in Manitoba, where our industries are quite connected. So it's good to keep tabs on what's happening there. And I guess I should plug the Prairie Swine Center as well. I do keep up with what's happening here in Western Canada and on the Prairie Swine Center front.
Okay, excellent. Good to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So then what about a favorite book or resource outside of agriculture?
Oh, my favorite book since I was 15 or 16 years old has been Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's something that just resonated with me, and I reread it every couple of years, and I am very excited. My daughter is still a little bit young, I think, to take that piece on, but once she's ready, I'll be reading it right alongside.
Nice. I have to admit that I started in the book, but I couldn't quite get through it. So I'll stick to the movies or the TV show.
For sure.
Okay, and then the last question is, in your opinion, what sets successful swine professionals apart from those that are not?
I think it really is, from my perspective, the willingness to put yourself out there, to share, to ask questions. We all don't know things, and it's okay that we don't know everything. And I've found that, and it doesn't have to be in a big conference space. It can be just a one-on-one. Continuing to ask questions and learn things and grow your network. Find the people that have the answers to those questions that you're looking for. And in my experience, they're usually pretty keen to tell you about it. They are very knowledgeable resources, and you get to know people. You get to build, like I say, your network of people that you can go to if you have another question. And then they come to you when they have a question that maybe you have the answer for. So I think that again, that willingness to share, that building of connections in the industry, and being willing to put yourself out there and give yourself opportunities to learn and grow. That would be my biggest takeaway.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Miranda. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, excellent. So that concludes another episode of the Swine in Canada podcast show presented by Wisenetics. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in one of the next ones. Until then.